Welcome to Your Music Saved Us, where two friends blast ourselves into the past to relive and recontextualize the alternative Christian music we grew up listening to in the 1990s. My name is Jay, and I'll be your host for today. With me is Clifton, someone who is, I was going to say always blue, but I'm struggling with, stuff on this album. But yeah, Clifton, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Good. I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm good. Clifton, what are we listening to?
We are listening to what is without a doubt the best thing I ever bought at a Christian bookstore.
Whoa.
I know.
That's a big claim, man.
I know. It's been hard to prepare for this episode because I love this album and I didn't want to have to examine it,
Right.
And I also knew that I couldn't say anything to do it justice. But anyways, yeah. So we're covering Lovelife by the Julies.
Well, I will say I've been excited to do this one with you because I know how much you like this, so I'm curious your take. I'm also curious to see if there's anything, now, so many years later, if there's anything that maybe hasn't held up as well or you've been more critical of than you thought. So, but let's start in. Was this easy to find?
For 20 years, the answer to that would have been no. It was almost impossible to find. But in 2020, in the year 2020 of our dear Lord and Savior, this was re-released on vinyl, and so now it's kind of everywhere. It's streaming platforms, Bandcamp, Walmart. It's in all the places.
Yeah, Lost in Ohio Records has been putting out some of these old kind of Christian alternative stuff back out on vinyl, and sometimes giving it a new lease for life, like on Spotify and stuff like that, which I've appreciated because it made it much easier for me to listen to.
Yeah.
In prepping for this.
Yeah. This was nowhere before that. I mean, you probably couldn't find it to download.
I found I found some old YouTube from 8 years ago. Somebody had put it up, and there were lots of people that were really happy in the comments about it. So
it's amazing, for the tiny little thing that this was. It's amazing how many people kind of treasure this album.
Yeah. I noticed that too when I was looking through stuff. People are really into this.
Yeah.
So we'll find out why. A couple quick questions before we go. Was this played in youth group?
Not in mine, certainly. Was it played in your youth group?
Absolutely not. It would be amazing, but no.
Yeah. Yeah, that I wouldn't even be upset about that. I know in a previous episode I said I would have been shocked and dismayed a little bit because it wouldn't mean I'm not that different. But if this was played in youth group, I'd have been like, hell yeah!
Right. Are we getting preached at in this?
I guess that depends on your perspective, but no.
Yeah, not
really.
The typical evangelical preaching, at least, right?
No.
So, Clifton, I'm going to interject. We have set up a Patreon for Your Music Saved Us. So if you go to patreon.com/YMSU, you can become a patron for us and get extended episodes and check out some other stuff we're doing. I think also, we haven't talked about this, but I'm assuming you're going to put our first experimental trial episode maybe on there as well. We recorded one that never got, broadcast just to try it out.
Yeah, the very first thing we ever recorded, we never published, yeah.
So, for patrons, we'll make that available. And
that's a good idea. I like that. Yeah, so we have that. You'll get extended episodes, with a little bit of extra bonus content on every episode. We'll also upload the, just because Patreon makes it available, we'll upload the album art for every episode onto there for the releases. And, every once in a while we'll give you guys a chance to vote on what we're doing next.
Yeah. And I'll say we're not doing this to get rich. We're not really even doing this for the money.
We don't have enough listeners to get
rich. We won't.
I don't think that's
the only reason we're doing this is it would help, especially Clifton, because he does the editing, that aspect of it. If we could get enough patrons to help with that, that would be a huge help. And we could probably even do more episodes or put out some extra bonus stuff if we weren't spending so much time editing what we have. So please consider becoming a patron of ours. It would be very helpful for us.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
So, Clifton, tell us a little bit about the band.
Yeah, so, okay, there's not a lot of information. I know we say this all the time, but there's not a lot of information about the Julies. And this time I'm being super serious. Like, even today, there's not that much information about the Julies, even after the whole sweep of articles and stuff on this album getting re-released on vinyl. It's not, it's like the same one paragraph summary of who the Julies are, basically, and then people give a little bit of, I used to love this, and granted, a lot of people seem to have. But anyways, there is a good interview with Chris Newkirk, the vocalist for the Julies, on the Low Profile with Mark Lee Morrison podcast. So a lot of this is going to be pulled from that and a little bit of what's around. There is also, in the vinyl release for this, there's a great insert with fun stories about the band. But I'm not going to get into that much because I want you to honestly go buy it. So, yeah. So, the Julies were formed in 1992 in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, which is basically like a western suburb of Harrisburg, the capital of Pennsylvania. And the Julies are John Batta on bass and backing vocals, Chris Newkirk on vocals, Alex Yost on guitars and backing vocals, Patrick Zabowski on guitars, and Greg Homan on drums and percussion. It seems that everyone but Patrick went to school together, I guess, and John knew Chris because Chris had written lyrics for John's previous band, Garden Party, and John and Chris harassed Alex and Greg into joining the band, and then Patrick auditioned for the band after seeing an ad. So that's how the band came together. From what I can gather, Chris lived in New Jersey, so it wasn't exactly super easy for the band to practice. But the band, put in the hard work, practicing and playing. They eventually played shows in Philadelphia and New York City. And by 1994, they were playing shows at venues such as CBGB's in New York. But to get these shows, they had to get the attention of some labels and some stuff like that. And so they recorded a demo of 6 songs on cassette, which they also sold at their shows. This demo would become known as January, and can now be found on Bandcamp, where you can buy a digital copy, or it's also streaming on all the streaming services. But it's been once again made available by Lost in Ohio through that same event that got this album re-released. So the band got some interest from labels including Sire and A&M and Zero Hour, most of who just wanted to keep an eye on the band to see what they would do next. And then calls Alex Parker of Flying Tart Records and offers the band a contract to start recording immediately. Most of the members of the band were Christians, but they didn't grow up listening to Christian music and didn't have any interest in being a part of the Christian music scene. Still, the band jumped at the opportunity, hoping to put something out that could get them picked up by a bigger label. So in 1995, they went to the studio to record this album. And then, not much happened. As we've already discussed with Huntington's Sweet 16, Flying Tart Records was kind of going broke from the moment of their inception. And these money issues kind of delayed the release of this album, among many others. In fact, the liner notes for this album have a copyright of 1995, while the back of the album has a copyright of 1996, and there is some disagreement about whether this was released in 1996 or 1997, although I think it was released in 1996. But in the time that it took Lovelife to arrive on music store shelves, the band had already broken up. So they didn't get to enjoy any of the success that came with putting this great little EP out.
Man, that's a story I feel like of so many bands. You know, maybe they're farther in their career, but they put out like kind of their peak album and then boom, break up.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, crazy. So how did you discover the Julies?
I don't remember exactly. I probably found it like pretty soon after it came out. The album cover is like, it's like a super bright red background with like this little cute like boy and girl like drawing on it. So it's pretty easy to see. Plus it's Flying Tart, and Flying Tart put out a lot of EPs that didn't cost much money, honestly. So that was probably a pretty good reason to buy this for me. And honestly, I didn't remember this until like just 2 days ago, that I remember sitting in Stuart's room on his couch listening to this, especially the song Blue. So, whenever it was, it definitely, like, Stuart and I listened to this together immediately. I also remember that it was right as I was learning to play guitar, and kind of like my failure to sound like the Julies was a real disappointment to me in my life. So yeah.
How did you feel about it then? Did you like it immediately?
You know, I think so. I wish I remember. This is one of those where I really wish I could remember like hearing it for the first time, right? Because that's just a great experience. Sadly, I don't. I think so. I think it's important to back up here for a second and say that the first thing you need to understand about the Julies is that it's not CCM sounding, and honestly, it doesn't even sound like anything else that you're going to hear on Tooth and Nail or 5 Minute Walk or any of the other alternative labels out there. They were in the Christian scene at the time, had a pretty unique sound, and that unique sound, I think, gave it a really special place in my heart. You know, especially considering the fact that it really is like it's just for 6 songs, it's kind of an epic EP. And that unique sound with the good songwriting and everything, I love this. It was important to me at the time. It was something I listened to quite often. You know, when I was young, I think my mind was kind of more attuned to like the simplicity of punk or ska songs, right? And listening to Love Life was more an experience of letting like a cacophony of like beautiful noises wash over me and like pull me under and toss me around in a riptide or something like that. And so it was always just something different to me to listen to this as opposed to things that, you know, and I even listened to a few like poppier type things, you know, like Cosmos Express and things like that. But this, it was even though Cosmos Express is highly British influence as well, this is still different from that, you know, so it really did have a unique place for me.
Any other specific, you talked about sitting on Stuart's couch, any other specific memories from this or any songs that stood out?
Yeah, for songs, all of them, right? Like, I mean, I remember every song in this, but that's also because I listen to it all the time. Specific memories, I love this album so much that the Julies are the only band I ever wrote to. So on the inside of the packaging, there's an address that says, you know, to send $1 in a self-addressed stamped envelope to get the lyrics. I don't remember what I wrote, but I got a letter back from them along with the lyric sheet, and I still have it. You want to hear what they wrote to me?
Yeah, tell us, Clifton.
So first off, there's the letterhead on here, and it says, "From the tiny minds of the Julies." And the Julies is open parentheses, lowercase the Julies, close parentheses, period. So it's, you know, highly stylized in a 90s kind of way here. It says, "Howdy, Clifton. I've heard it's pretty hot down there. Any truth to this rumor? Sorry it took so long to write back. No offense, of course. Anyways, I've enclosed a copy of the lyrics so you can sing along. However, if you want to play along, you'll have to look elsewhere for help. We've never taken the time to put down the music on paper. Sorry, the songs aren't too complicated, though. Nothing a little hard work couldn't fix. Well, hope you continue to enjoy Love Life, and God bless."
So I'm guessing you
So obviously I asked them how to play their songs.
Right.
And they didn't tell me. So that was great. And I remember feeling a little like embarrassed when I got the letter back and they said they hadn't ever written down their music, because I was like, of course you wouldn't write down your music. Like, anyways, yeah.
Hey, Johnny Q Public put their chords in there, so I mean,
True.
It was reasonable to ask.
Maybe that's why I had a thought that some people do that. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Did you listen to this back in the day?
No. I mean, so I knew of this. I remember the cover, and for some weird reason, I just kind of passed it by. I think I did hear that song "Wake Up Christine" because I think that was on the Starball contribution.
Yes.
And so that one was familiar to me, at least a little bit. But I don't know why. I think I just, you know, you got something else, you get into something else, and after a while you just forget about it, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I would have liked it, I think, but
yeah,
who knows?
Yeah, I mean there is a lot of music out there. You know, it's impossible to listen to it all, but it's
especially back then, because you actually had to have the physical
right
CD or tape or something. You know, unlike now where you can just like look it up and listen to anything you want.
You couldn't be laying in bed not able to sleep and be like, "I'll listen to the Julies."
Right. Yeah. Okay, I'm guessing you've revisited this since that time.
Oh yeah, okay. I listen to it all the time.
Okay, so I was going to ask what you expected before you listened to it again, but I'm guessing you already knew that you liked it.
Preparing for this, like listening to this again was more a struggle on like how am I going to describe this to people, and how am I going to talk about it without like examining it to a point that it kind of kills it for me. But honestly, it's great. I still love it. I was just right before we started recording, I was listening to I removed the vocals from the music, and I was listening to the album without the vocals, and it's still like super fun, and you kind of just close your eyes and let it wash over you.
Okay, well, before we jump into it, let me ask then, was there, now that you were kind of going back through it with more of a fine-tooth comb and being a little more critical, and you don't have to tell me yet, but just, did you discover anything, I don't know, were you a little more critical in areas than you thought you might be? Were there any things you were like, actually that part's not great? Or are you so much a super fan that, okay.
No, it was still just super fun.
All right, well,
I enjoyed listening to this album over and over and over again, getting ready for this. Well, that was the fun part. What about you? What was your, you know, you gotta tell me what you thought overall, but like, what was your first reaction?
Yeah, no, I liked it. I thought it was good. I honestly felt like it was pretty, I don't know if mature is the right word, but I'm going to go with that. Like, considering it was just an EP and it was the first thing that at least was really put out to the public.
Right.
So, any recording quality and stuff, I'm sure we'll talk about. Like, I didn't think it was bad. Honestly, I was pretty impressed. I'll probably be a little more critical than you are at some points. You know, I'll bring us down to earth a little bit at times.
Good. But, I hope
so. But overall, like, yeah, I was impressed. And I definitely see why people connected with this so much. And it kind of has a special place in a lot of people's hearts.
Mm-hmm. So we haven't mentioned what this sounds like overall. So I just want to give people a good idea of what it sounds like. And it's kind of like 50%. Well, let's do this. It's 40% the early Cure, 10% Smiths, and like the other 50% is a little bit, you know, I think it's 50% of the influence, but it doesn't feel like it. But it's like that early 90s shoegaze.
Yeah, I think you're right. I definitely got, especially in some of the songs, the shoegaze vibe, just with the way the guitars sounded.
Yeah.
And definitely in places I was reminded of Morrissey, just in the vocal delivery, some of the songs. And I totally see The Cure and some of the other kind of like, I don't know if you call it Britpop, but British influence bands through there. Yeah. I mean, he's definitely putting on that accent and stuff when he sings. So
yes. But all that said, all those influences just given out there, it doesn't seem derivative. It takes on a life of its own very much in this, yeah. Anyways, we'll get talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not an expert on this genre, but to me, it feels like it would hold up well against other stuff.
I agree.
Well, should we jump in?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, Clifton, the album, scratch that. The EP starts off with the first song, Drive Me Mad.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, this album is kind of like this cacophony of like beautiful noises, and it starts almost immediately. This is probably the simplest song on the EP. Musically, there's a lot of it's just like palm muted guitars, but there's this great opening drum fill followed by guitar riff that's going to be used throughout the song, and it just honestly like pulls you straight in. It's super catchy, and then Chris's vocals come in, and this will kind of be true throughout the album. They're kind of buried in the mix. They're probably not as buried as like most shoegaze, but they're pretty buried in the mix. So they don't just jump out at you. But he has a really good delivery. It's very melodic, very emotive. But also his singing is clear enough that on a listen or two, honestly, you can probably pick up most of the lyrics, right?
Yeah, there's a few parts I had to look up, but most of it.
Yeah. And I think that's super key because kind of one of the fun things about this EP is that even though it doesn't seem like the kind of thing that you would sing along with, it's super fun to sing along with.
Right.
so we get to the first verse there. It's kind of, like I said, musically it's just like palmy guitars. It's not anything super special, but we've talked before about how great albums always have these like little special magical moments, and they're of course littered throughout here. I'm not gonna even come close to getting all of them in here, but there's a few that I'll make note of. So as we go into kind of the end of the verse and the beginning of the chorus, there's kind of like a little short build-up of the guitars that's kind of just like a muted, scratchy thing. And then it goes into the chorus with Chris screaming, "Oh, I want to hate you. Oh, but it's too late to. Oh, I guess I love you more. It's enough to drive me mad." And it's just, I think we get Chris's like really great vocals right here on the first song. And it just, I don't know, I find it really magical. So Jay, what are your thoughts on the Julies have typically, if they have, well, I'm gonna say there's a chorus in every song to the extent that we're gonna say that there's a chorus in every song, and they're often like these just little short little bursts. What was your, I don't know, what did you think?
Yeah, no, you're right. I thought this was a song that the EP probably had to start with.
Right. Yes.
So, side note. You had the lyrics that they originally sent you, and you scanned those in, and I was looking at them, and on the lyric sheet, this is not the first song. This is actually the second song.
Right, yeah.
And it made me wonder, just knowing the backstory about like how this kept getting delayed, if at some point that this wasn't going to be the first song.
Yeah.
And the song that they have at the beginning on the lyrics is Blue, which we'll talk about in a minute, but I tried to listen to it in that order just to see. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't work as well. Like, you kind of have to start with this one just because it's probably the most upbeat of the songs on the EP, and it would feel it would be weird like having it as a second song, I think, especially after Blue. So it's a good one to start with. I really like that line, "Oh, I want to hate you, but it's too late to." And I found throughout this EP there's some little one-liners like that I really like.
Yeah. Overall, I think the lyrics are great, but there are certain lyrics that certain lines that just stand out and they just really grab you, right?
Yeah. No, I liked it. I think it's a strong beginning. It stays pretty upbeat. I like how the drums kind of propel it along. Mm-hmm. And it's got, you already can kind of hear that like shoegazy influence in some of the distortion in the guitar, even in this song.
And this song is actually, the guitar-wise, there's not much effects on the guitars here. We do kind of get a wall of sound just because there's so much guitar, but a lot of shoegaze uses, reverb and chorus and things like that to kind of create that wall of sound, and they're not using anything here. They might have a little bit of reverb on the lead guitar, but it's not anything substantial, not like what you're going to hear in a shoegaze band. I do want to play the first part here a little bit because I got to thinking about how this is as you said, you couldn't start the album with anything else, right?
Yeah.
And the very first thing is that little drum fill, right? Listen to this again, because I think the drum fill is kind of cut and pasted onto the beginning of the song. I don't think it was recorded like this. Listen to this. I don't know. What's your thought there?
Huh. I don't know. Now I'm curious to like edit out that drum fill and see what it would be like if it just started when the band came in. So your theory is that was added to kind of give it an extra oomph to start
for the first song.
Huh.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they planned it the whole time, but it's hard to say.
Yeah.
The drums are really like forceful on this song, and I don't know how much time you got to spend listening to January, that first demo of theirs. The drums on that are insane in some points. But the drums here, as forceful as they are, they remain pretty simple. And I think I've talked about this in other albums, but one thing I really enjoy here is as we get into the second verse, the drums are going to switch over to completely toms, and the lyrics, the lyrics kind of feel like they're being like more like shoved into the empty space that we have for them, kind of creating this like edge of anxiousness, I think, on the second verse. I think that tom thing kind of gives it more of like a heartbeat thing, though, and kind of a little more, I don't want to use the word primal, maybe, but like emotionally more primal, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know. The lyrics kind of mirror this feeling, though, with lines such as "Just kiss me where I say it hurts," and say those words that always work. Into the pre-chorus, which is "Heaven knows it's my first time to hell. Take the time, show me around. I'll take any time you've got for me."
Heaven knows it's my first time to. That just sounds like Morrissey, by the way. Like that line.
I know, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and as you could hear there, let me play that moment again, actually, here, because it's the rhythm on it's really fun. Tell me, sell me the part of you that held me, pretending not to notice, and we would only go this far. That tell me, so the rhythm there on the lyrics is pretty fun, and Chris is actually pretty good at that throughout. Using not just they're not just lyrics that were written and then taken to and put on top of the song. He has a lot of fun with the rhythms of the lyrics, and he kind of uses repetition of sounds. In addition to rhyming, obviously, there's alliteration and other just kind of repetitions in there that make the lyrics a lot of fun throughout this EP. So the second chorus, the first one is pretty big. That scream, I want to hate you. The second one gets a little bigger, a little more chaos. I think it starts feeling a little bit off kilter. And then we get something that I don't think we've ever had on any album we've ever discussed on this podcast, Jay. You ready for this?
Yes.
We have an honest to God third verse.
Oh. I did notice this, by the way. I was looking at the lyric sheet and I was like, geez, this song is long. Like this one, I mean, just lyrically, this one has more than a lot of the other ones.
Yeah, because it's not just a repetition of previous verse. It is a real third verse, and I honestly don't know that we've ever had that before on any of our songs.
Wow.
And kind of in this third verse, the desperation really increases. We get lines like, "I want you all too much again," and "I'm face down in a memory of you." And instead of going into the pre-chorus this time, we get the lyrics, "With my nerves all tangled up, my pride's all mangled up. Can you teach me how to smile like that?" I want you all too much again, your sleepy voice and painted skin. You got me all dressed up in a stare, dressed up, masked up, and who said hold your head up? I'm face down in a memory of you. Nerves all tangled up, my eyes all mangled up. Can you teach me how to smile like that? My nerves all tangled up, my pride's all mangled up. Can you teach me? Oh, can you teach me now? And that little scratchy thing with the guitar right before it kicks into the chorus, instead of just being a little scratch, this time it's double the speed. It's squeaky and squilly. We're really kind of adding a lot of chaos to the song here. And honestly, it does that for a little bit. It gets a little bit crazier, and then it just. It's just over, which is something that's going to happen a lot throughout these songs, which is that these songs just kind of build into like greater and greater tension, and then they just end.
Yeah, this is not Stephen Curtis Chapman where it goes on for like a minute too long.
No,
that's not happening on this one.
Yeah, this song is 3.5 minutes long, and it's it's probably in the middle of how long songs are on this.
Yeah, and it's pretty wordy for them.
It is.
Yeah, because it's a lot of stuff's not repeated, and lyrically, it's got a lot in there.
So as a kid, I found this song, to be fun and high energy. Like I said, that wants to be sung along with, and as we've already talked about, it's a really great introduction to the album. And there's just great standout lyrics. We've already talked about some of them, but some other ones, are kind of there's a line that says, "Inside tongue tied, it would have all come out as lies. You never had the time for me anyway." Or "Can't you see, can't you tell? Heaven knows it's my first time to hell. Take the time, show me around. I'll take any time you've got for me." And then, of course, the chorus, which is, "I want to hate you, but it's too late to. I guess I'll love you, but it's enough to drive me mad." And it kind of, it gives you a lot to chew on. And honestly, enough like Christian-esque content to be like, is this song talking about God? I don't know, but it gives you enough to like dig into, right?
Yeah, I felt like this is one of those albums where you're, as a Christian kid at least, you were like, oh yeah, okay, that's about God. You were like
Yeah.
looking for the little things to like let you know it's about God, even though I'm not sure any of it was. But
right.
You made it work.
Exactly. So let's talk about that. I want to take a look here at the lyrics for a moment, kind of in that state of mind that I was in, as a 16-year-old, looking for the Christian content in here. And I don't think, you're not going to, you're not going to find something Plank-esque in here, some kind of meaning like that from lyrics. But, there are plenty of other bands around at the time, that had, dense lyrics. And I don't think it was too crazy to think that this might just be like some really honest expression that's so honest that, maybe even a heresy shows up in that honesty.
Ooh.
Right? So, I'm going to read the lyrics here to you. The first line is actually really great. You kind of don't catch it if you're listening to the song, but it says, "If the world's supposed to stop for me, then how come you won't talk to me? I know you keep it all inside. Inside, tongue-tied, it would have all come out as lies. You never had the time for me anyway. Can't you see and can't you tell? Heaven knows it's my first time to hell. Take the time and show me around. I'll take any time you've got for me. I want to hate you, but it's too late to. I guess I'll love you, but it's enough to drive me mad." And so with this first verse, I think, I'm looking at this like, okay, if the world's supposed to stop for me, maybe this is like a reflection of like kind of the self-importance that we get out of, all the things we're taught in church that are like, God made you just the way you are, and so, it kind of gives you that kind of inflated sense of self, but sometimes, we have this inflated sense of self and we're like, where are you, God? So how come you won't talk to me? I know you keep it all inside, right? And maybe that's for the best, because if whatever I was going to tell you in that time probably wouldn't have been the truth anyways. But you're kind of just sitting there thinking like, where is God, right? And then, heaven knows it's my first time to hell, because I'm trying to, like, say I'm having a quiet time and I'm trying to quote unquote like be in heaven, but it hurts because I'm not getting anything out of this, right?
Yeah.
So take the time, show me around, I'll take any time you've got for me, right? Like those times when, when God seems silent, it's like, I'll literally take anything, God, right? Like anything at all. I want to hate you, but you died for me, so it's too late to, so I guess I'll love you, even though sometimes you do drive me mad.
Now, is this really how you interpreted this?
Oh, to a certain extent, yes. I'm not saying that I thought that was the meaning, it's just that I could, like, initially I felt like it could have been a meaning.
Yeah, I love how as Christian kids you were just that's the angle we took, right? Rather than just like looking at it on the surface and like, okay, these are just like love songs basically, and he's like, kind of twisted up over a girl and trying to figure it all out. No, we had to go like that angle and apply this like really deep meaning to stuff and really kind of stretch stuff and pull stuff to make it work.
Hey, there's way creepier like Christian love songs to God out there.
No, you're right. No, for sure. Yeah, pretty weird stuff, just even in praise and worship music. But
yeah,
it's funny how we couldn't just take it for what it was. So many times we had to stretch and pull and kind of like, oh, see, that's about God. And it's like, is it? I don't know.
Exactly. Because this next verse is going to be really hard to fit in here. Because it starts off with, just kiss me where I say it hurts, and say those words that always work. But please don't tell me how you really feel. Tell me, sell me, the part of you that held me, and pretend not to notice that we would only go this far. Can't you see, can't you tell? Heaven knows it's my first time to hell. Take the time, show me around, take any time you've got for me. Again. So it's kind of hard to make sense of the just kiss me where I say it hurts. But then again, you're like, as a 16-year-old, you're not that long, half your life ago was when you were 8 years old, and you're like, yeah, kiss a boo-boo, that's fine. What's wrong? What's weird about that?
Okay, all right, keep going. I'm imagining Jesus kissing you. All right, keep going.
And then say those words that always work, just because, like, if you're in a desperate place, it's like, just say something to make me feel better, right? I just need something to make me feel better from you, God, right? And then please don't tell me how you really feel is fine. I think that's fine as a Christian lyric, because it's like definitely look at me through Jesus, God. Don't look at me and like tell me how you feel about me when not looking at me through Jesus, right?
Okay.
I don't know what the rest of it would mean, though, honestly. If
And pretended not to notice that we would only go this far. I mean, I'm curious that line with Jesus.
I don't know. Hey, you don't always get stuff, Jay.
Okay, you going far with Jesus? I don't know. I was interpreting that more as like, sexual stuff. But hey, whatever. Maybe that's just me.
Maybe it's like pretend not to notice. That I'm only willing to give this much up for you.
Oh, I see. Wow, Clifton, you really did.
I'm good at this.
Jump through hoops on this stuff. Okay,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
So the third verse is almost impossible, though. I want you all too much again, your sleepy voice and painted skin. You've got me all dressed up in a stare. Dressed up, messed up, and who said hold your head up? I'm face down in a memory of you. My nerves all tangled up, my pride's all mangled up. Can you teach me how to smile like that? My nerves all tangled up, my pride's all mangled up. Can you teach me? Oh, can you teach me? I don't know.
Yep, I don't think it works for God.
So at this point, you kind of got to give up, right? Because this is definitely a love song.
Right.
And it's honestly it's a great love song. I mean, it's not a love song. It's a, I'm hurting inside because I don't have a love song, right?
This whole album is kind of like back and forth, like, I'm in love, I'm not in love, I'm miserable because I'm in love and because I'm not in love, and that kind of thing. Which
for 16-year-old Clifton was still fine. That was perfect.
I could see how you really connected to this, because I know you're kind of a romantic, I would say. I don't that's maybe not the best way to put it, but I could definitely see you connecting with these lyrics big time.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Because, one thing that Chris said in that podcast episode was that, it's kind of about not just falling in love, but like wanting to fall in love. Right?
Right.
And so it does have that kind of like romantic thing to it. Like, and sometimes you fall in love and it's still not as good as you thought it was going to be. And so you're let down by it.
Yeah.
And that's,
And when you were 16, I think especially actually in the church, you kind of idolize this idea of what falling in love would be like, even though it actually it's never going to be like that, because it's just in your head and it's this kind of made up thing. And I think that the purity culture and the church stuff feeds into that and makes it seem much bigger than it really is.
Especially when you add in the idea of the one, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Exactly. And so you add all that in, and you think this love is going to be this amazing thing, and love is great, but it's not probably going to be as great as you imagined it because you've built it up so much.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, like in the church, you're kind of sold this bill of goods that like when you finally fall in love, like everything's gonna be fine. Because like. Oh, you have all these desires and everything that you can't act on right now, but when you fall in love, everything will just fall right into place, like it'll, I mean, it's the church does sell this very romantic view of finding the one, and like, like God made this one person for you. They're going to make you whole, right? Like it's the other half of you that you've been missing, right?
Right.
And so it's this very huge idea of all the neuroses in me, all the holes that I feel in me, are going to be filled by this person. And so every time you fall in love and it doesn't feel like that, you're like, well, I don't know. I guess I'm just bad at this.
Yeah. I think we've talked about this before, but I think because of all the expectations, you end up blaming yourself for stuff when really it was kind of how do I say it? Like just the religion, just all this kind of stuff that was put on you rather than the reality of what it was. So you blame yourself when things don't go the right way rather than like, hey, maybe I was just lied to and it's never going to be this way.
Right. Yeah. And you also get into a situation of like unintentionally love bombing, right? From like both sides,
What do you mean?
So love bombing is like, is basically like throwing so much affection at somebody that you kind of just like, it's meant to like confuse, like it's almost it's used in like sexual predator language as like almost like a meant to like confuse the person, like to kind of hide your true self. And I'm not using it in that exact sense. I'm saying like you're almost unintentionally like love bombing each other because you're like, hey, we finally found each other, like let's just give ourselves over to each other completely, like immediately, right? Because you're like, because as we've talked about, this is the person who's supposed to complete the other half of you, and so you're desperately looking for that, and so you're trying to make it happen, and so when you fall in love, you go way too far with that, right? You you end up with like a short flame instead of a long romance or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
and you're right. That idea of the one is really a big part of all this.
Yeah, to an extent that we've talked about kind of the damage of purity culture and stuff like that before. But I would go so far as to say that this kind of romantic idea of what the church tries, what the evangelical church sells you as far as romance goes is probably heretical. Like it's like there's like this idea of romance, right, is surely not in the Bible, right? I mean, definitely there's some occasions that people in the Bible marry each other for love. There's also occasions people in the Bible just like it being a purely financial transaction,
Yeah, true.
But I don't think you can claim that this kind of fiery romantic love is something that you find in the Bible, taught in the Bible. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we got Song of Solomon, but that's a whole other thing.
True. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
But yeah, that you can go all kinds of places with that. So
yeah. Yeah. So let's get back to these lyrics.
Okay.
Because they are actually really good. If the world is supposed to stop for me, then how come you won't talk to me? This is, once again, it is a little bit full of, self-indulgence here. But I don't know if this is someone who's approaching someone that they have a crush on and it's not being reciprocated, or if this is someone they've already been in a relationship with and it's gotten to a bad point where like they're not communicating anymore. What do you think?
I don't know. I was back and forth on so many of these songs trying to figure out if they're still in a relationship, if they're not. I know that's not an answer, but I'm just going to go with I don't know. I did this on almost every song. I had trouble.
Yeah, I think there's room for interpretation here. I think that maybe that's something that Chris did here that he can be proud of. That he left plenty of room here for interpretation, while that still kind of reads well both ways. But definitely, we get to this heaven knows it's my first time in hell. Take the time, show me around. I'll take any time you've got for me. Definitely, we're talking about someone who I think desperately wants to be loved, but isn't finding that love, right? And because of that, they want to hate you, but it's too late because they've already kind of given over to this love, right? They've already their heart's already into this too much, right? So I guess I'll love you, but it is enough to drive me mad,
right?
And then the second verse, kiss me where I say it hurts, and all those words that always work, but please don't tell me how you really feel. Tell me, sell me the part of you that held me, and pretend not to notice that we would only go this far. So once again, I think this might be using that relationship, both physical and emotional, to kind of just fill a hole, right? Especially that, kiss me where I say it hurts is, I think we're seeing someone who is saying, let's not deal with our problems. Let's just get back to the fun parts of this relationship, right? The part where we're lovey-dovey and that kind of stuff, especially and pretend not to notice that we would only go this far. I think is a reference to, probably something we're all very, very accustomed or very familiar with growing up in youth group, is saying, I'm not going to go far. We're only going to kiss, or we're only going to hold hands. And then then you start doing more than that. You're like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Well, this isn't bad. We'll just pretend we didn't have the conversation 10 minutes ago, But yeah. And then I think the third verse, which we'll read again here, I want you all too much again, your sleepy voice and painted skin. You've got me all dressed up in a stare. Dressed up, messed up, and who said hold your head up? I'm face down in a memory of you. With my nerves all tangled up, my pride's all mangled up, can you teach me how to smile like that? The sleepy voice may just be a reference to a cute voice or something like that. Painted skin is probably a reference to tattoos, I don't know. But this is obviously like continuing to do that has left this person in a pretty in a pretty fragile state here.
You understand it better than me. Again, I was looking at this going, are they in a relationship? Are they not? My notes just say, relationship driving him mad? Question mark.
I think the answer to that is yes.
Right.
You know?
It's hard to tell, like, is he in it or not? Is he wanting to be in it? But it also drives him crazy. You know, like when you have that crush and it's like all you can think about and you're actually kind of going bonkers with that. It's hard to tell. And I feel like that is kind of the theme throughout almost every song on here. Like, is he in the relationship? Is he not? It's clearly like, driving him crazy, but I don't know if it's actually the one he's currently in.
Right. That's very true.
So
I think we'll get onto some more lyrics like that. So why don't we move on?
Okay. Let's go to second song, Wake Up Christine.
As you mentioned, this song is on the legendary Flying Tart Sampler Starball contribution. And other than that, it's also probably the most well-known song on this EP for some certain sense of the phrase "well-known." Anytime I've heard the Julies in my life where it wasn't me playing it, it was this song that I always heard.
It's also the shortest song.
It is. EP. It's only 2 minutes and 22 seconds.
Yeah.
You know? A real nod to Juliana Theory there. That was a joke. Okay. The riff that opens the song is definitely more laid back than the last song. And here we get some more guitar effects than we did in the first song. You know, we get kind of like this swirling distortion going on behind it. Once again, the drums are all toms on this song, and something we didn't hear as much on the first song because it has a lot of really loud guitars is that really for a lot of this album, the bass takes up as much space as anything else because we start getting more of this like spacey kind of like tingly sprinkling of guitars, right? And the lyrics start with, "Wake up, Christine, I think there's something wrong with me." And then, like, 2 lines in, we get guitar feedback, and the song kicks into a bit higher gear for a second. So we get that, I don't know, it's very weird that was actually a whole verse there that we just heard. And one thing I really love about these first 2 songs especially is that they're probably recorded a bit too fast for their own good, like they were recording in a manic state and they were trying to stay calm, but it was just a little faster than was probably good for the song. But the vocals kind of once again kind of mirror that kind of manic state where we get this somewhat calm, like, "Wake up, Christine," followed by the much faster vocals, "I think there's something wrong with me," and then he goes into something that he thinks that might be wrong. And there isn't really a chorus to this song, except for kind of just, like, the guitar riff between the verses and then that opening line, "Wake up, Christine." But there are a lot of, like, as I mentioned, there's a lot more guitar effects on here. There's a lot of tremolo and a little bit of reverb that's kind of giving us that warbly guitar sound. And it kind of just repeats that "Wake up, Christine" and then a short little something there. And then it goes back into the riff again, and then "Wake up, Christine." Like I said, it's a short song. It's only 2 minutes 22 seconds. So I'm gonna start playing here at 1 minute 30 seconds here, because at this point, which is kind of towards the end of the song, we get this kind of bridge where the guitar drops out, and we're left with just the toms and a bit of bass drum. I really love that the little bit of feedback there, and then Chris counting that 2, 3, 4. And then after that, it's kind of just followed by like this manic sprint of the main riff kind of into the end of the song. And then the end of the song ends with this like really desperate wake up. And so this is probably the most popular song on the album, but honestly, because it didn't have any like accidentally Christian-esque lyrics in it, it didn't really stand out to me as a kid. Like it wasn't really one of my favorite songs. It was probably my least favorite song on the album. Not to say I didn't like it because it's fun and it's fun to sing along to and it sets a great mood. It wasn't a song that really captured me as a kid. So it is honestly probably my least favorite song on the album.
So I liked it a lot. I thought it was catchy. Yeah. I liked the guitar work in it. I like how the guitar kind of carries the melody in places.
Mm-hmm.
Question for you, though, that I kind of noticed as I was digging through this. What is actually the chorus of this song?
Yeah, there isn't really a chorus, right? It's just that beginning of every... It's just that every verse starts off the same with that "Wake Up, Christine."
Right.
So that's kind of the only repetition we get. So there really isn't a chorus to this.
I kind of wonder if that melodic guitar line is almost the chorus.
Yeah. It's kind of serving that purpose, right?
Yeah, and the song works really well, but it wasn't until I sat down and started dissecting it, I was like, wait a minute, there's not really a chorus on this song. I actually think this one could be a bit longer. I like it quite a bit. I mean, it's fine ending like it does, because it's a good song, and it, kind of leaves you wanting more, which
it definitely leaves you wanting to play it again.
Yeah. I really like that line, I'm scared of what I'll find in the back of your mind if I'm lucky enough to get inside.
Yeah, and the rhythm he gives to that is so great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked it quite a bit. It might be my favorite just because it's probably the catchiest. Initially, the other songs all have good high points, but this one is so short and kind of perfect in what it is. There's not a bad part through it.
I agree. So let's look at the lyrics here and find out what he thinks might be wrong with him. So let me start here. Wake up, Christine. I think there's something wrong with me. And you don't know. I just can't go to sleep. I'm so scared of what you might be dreaming. So actually it's not something that's wrong with him at all. He's just, well, maybe it is something wrong with him. But he's scared of what she might be dreaming. Let's go ahead and follow that up by the second one because it doesn't make a lot of sense by itself. Second verse. Wake up, Christine. There's something that's been bothering me and you don't know. I'm scared of what I'll find in the back of your mind if I'm lucky enough to ever get inside. We haven't given a lot to go on here yet. What are your thoughts?
I don't know.
Yeah, me either. I mean, like it's lyrically simple, but I don't know what to take from it. Let's move on here. Third verse. Wake up, Christine. I think there's something wrong with me, and you don't know. My fears get in the way of everything I want to say. I'm speechless and hopeless. Wake up, Christine. There's something that's been bothering me, and you don't know. I'm scared of what I'll find in the back of your mind if I'm lucky enough to ever get inside. And then there's the chorus here at the end, the bridge here at the end. Christine, I know, but it's hard for me to let it show. And I keep thinking how they went, all the days we never spent. So I don't understand this at all, honestly.
Is this more like, and maybe I'm wrong, but is this more like he's maybe has a crush on a girl or something and he just can't actually get it out and actually talk to her? And so he's like, and you don't know, like that, like you don't actually.
That's a good point because I just kind of skipped over that line.
How I'm feeling, and I'm scared of what you might be dreaming. Like, I want to know what you're thinking about me, but I'm too scared to even, do that. Like, so that idea of I'm scared of what I'll find in the back of your mind if I'm lucky enough to ever get inside.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
That's a good interpretation, and it fits in with that bridge at the end here. And I keep thinking how they went, all the days we never spent. Right.
That's what kind of tuned me onto it. So
yeah, I think it's a great interpretation because we're not given much else here. So I didn't. I was thinking that the first Crush song was going to be the next song, but I think you're right. I think this is a better Crush.
Well,
yeah.
There we go.
Solved it. Let's keep going.
All right, let's do the third song, Boy Wonder.
All right. This is a great song. Oh, they're all great songs, honestly, but this is a great song. I'll just say it for every song. We kind of turn a corner here on the album. This one starts off a little more slow-paced and less kind of desperate sounding, probably for the first two. the verse starts off with this kind of just like very slow and mellow, but honestly like extremely engaging, at least for me. The lyrics are, "Watch me hurt myself again. This movie never ends. It just keeps playing on and on." I'm going to continue playing here, but I really love when the melody is passed from one instrument to the other. So we kind of get there, like the melody starts off with the bass, dun-dun-dun, and then it kind of passes on to the guitar, and then it passes on to the other guitar, and then it goes back to the bass and over again. But I really love that when melodies are, the main melody of the song is kind of passed in between instruments. And with that, we're introduced to a theme that kind of repeats itself throughout the album several times, which is comparing like real life feelings with movies or art and things like that. And I think we'll come back to it when we talk about the lyrics, but it's something that I really loved about this album, and something that really stuck with me is just kind of like this play on movies as a motif here. So towards the end of the verse, we get this kind of like dun 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 guitar coming in. That seems kind of like it's a little off balance from the rest of the songs. You know, everything else is kind of this like slow floating type thing, and that guitar like it seems a little erratic against everything else. And it basically starts the chorus, which is once again here pretty simple, pretty short. It's just upset, movie set, ready, set, go. Upset, movie set, ready, set, go.
So I'll just say, listening to this a few times, I was like, oh, this song it's not as catchy. I don't know. But then that stupid part got in my head a lot. Like, throughout the day, I'd hear that upset, movie set, ready, set, go. Like, so it is catchy. I just didn't want to admit it or didn't realize it.
It's a bit of an earworm, but not in like the way Stephen Chris Chapman was on the last episode, where it got in your head and you were pissed off about it.
Right.
This gets in your head and you're just like, upset, movie set, ready, set, go. And you're just like, I don't know, it's fun to sing along to, right?
Yeah.
So between the chorus and the second verse, the guitars are, they're kind of that soft, warbly thing that we've been listening to here, and it has that melody that gets passed between the different instruments, and it has this feeling of almost like, it almost feels lazy and effortless, kind of like, like floating like on a lake or something like that, maybe, and like you kind of have like small waves coming at you in different directions and kind of, knocking you this way and that. But it's, it's not simple though, and it's really beautifully written. And so we end up with this, and I love, I'm going to play this here, because we end up with, each of these, before we go back into the verse again, we get kind of this like really simple drum fill that's just like dun-nut, dun-nut, and then go back into the verses here. So at the end of the second verse, we get this pre-chorus part that starts off with, you said it happened only once, one time, or maybe sometime. Now it happens all the time. I think it has a really great rhythm, but it also has some of Chris's vocal flourishes here.
You said it happened only once, one time, or maybe sometimes, but now it happens all the time, and now my soul's on fire, so you light a cigarette. I thought you'd be through with me, but it isn't.
And so I really like his like he said it only happened once, one time, well maybe sometimes, but he has really good vocal rhythm there, and we saw there's some backing vocals, which are, there's no great singing on this album, which is fine. I mean, I don't like good singing, but I think it's still really effective. And kind of every time we go through that verse thingy back into the chorus, we get a little bit more, like a little more verve on everything. Like This time through the chorus, we're going to get some hand claps, for example. I want to skip from there to the last chorus. One thing you'll notice there is that the first time through there's probably like one or two people clapping. And this next time through, there's more people clapping, and more of them are off beat. And so we get kind of like a little bit more messy, a little bit more chaos here as things goes on. After that, the chorus kind of just goes into repeat, and things kind of honestly get like increasingly layered on top of each other, a little more chaos behind it. The hand claps are actually then joined by a tambourine, which kind of throws everything off because, tambourine is a little crazy. And everything starts feeling a little bit warbly, and then the song's over. For some reason, the movie imagery in this always captured me as a kid. I don't know exactly why, but I especially love the line, "I don't want to be a love story." Kind of like, I want to do my own thing. I don't just want to like live out some, predestined, picturesque love story type thing. And then on the third verse, there's a great line that says, "Here's my daredevil stunt scene, the one where I'm thinking of someone other than myself," which, as I said, always stood out to me as a kid, kind of just like this. I don't know why, but I always interpreted it as kind of like, I felt like it was demanded. Like this daredevil stunt scene was demanded. Like, this is the only way to get attention, kind of putting myself at risk to live up to someone else's expectations. I don't know. Let's look at the lyrics here and kind of analyze that. What were your thoughts on the lyrics?
It's again where I really picked out on. I really like that line, "My soul's on fire, so you light a cigarette."
Mm-hmm.
It's clever, and also because I feel like that is some kind of Christian lingo, like "my soul's on fire."
Yeah.
But you don't follow that up with "so you light a cigarette." So I really kind of enjoyed that take on it.
Yeah, it's a. I don't know if that line is like really harsh, or if it's like, I don't know, but there's definitely there's a lot to dig into in that line, right?
Yeah.
This offset between, or maybe this juxtaposition between, "My soul's on fire, so you light a cigarette." Whether that's because so you use fire to do something with, or so you do something that's known to like calm people down, but you're doing it for you. You're not doing it for me, right?
Right.
But yeah, let's go through the lyrics here real fast. There's a lot of lyrics, but you can get through them pretty fast here. So the first verse is, "Watch me hurt myself again. This movie never ends. It keeps playing on and on. Everyone's a star when they close their eyes. Well, how come I keep mine open all the time? I don't want to know, and I don't want to be a love story. My soul's on fire, so you light a cigarette. I thought you'd be through with me, but it isn't over yet. Upset, movie set, ready, set, go." It's interesting that the song starts with "Watch me hurt myself again." This movie never ends. It just keeps playing on, and everyone's a star when they close their eyes. And I really love this next part here where he says, then why do I keep mine open all the time? Because, and he says, he doesn't want to. This is where he says, I don't want to be a love story, right? So he keeps his eyes open all the time because he doesn't want to just live this kind of preset story that is kind of just the way of doing things, right? And then we get into your favorite part here. "My soul's on fire, so I light a cigarette. I thought you'd be through with me, but it isn't over yet." Actually, let's just read the rest of the lyrics here because I'm really curious about what the "soul's on fire" thing means. So let's go on to verse 2 here. "Don't try, don't wonder why. Can't look you in the eye. Maybe I'm looking for myself. You said it happened only once one time. Well, maybe sometimes, but now it happens all the time. And my soul's on fire, so you light a cigarette. I thought you'd be through with me, but it isn't over yet. Upset, movie set, ready, set, go." Third verse. "Here's my daredevil stunt scene, the one where I'm thinking of someone other than myself." And then actually we get a repeat here of the second part of the second verse. Then we get the chorus again, "Upset, movie set, ready, set, go." And then at the end, we get him screaming. I want to play this here because we get him screaming, "It happens all the time," kind of overlayered with "Upset Movie Set Ready Set Go." So, as we said already, the repetition of this pre-chorus is very evocative, and now my soul's on fire, so you light a cigarette. I thought you'd be through with me, but it isn't over yet. When you add in that second part there, I thought you'd be through with me, but it isn't over yet. It's very kind of cold and unfeeling, I think. And it seems to be kind of quite the accusation against whoever you're accusing this of, right? It's not a nice thing to say to somebody, I don't think.
Right.
And then I think the other key to understanding this is because it gets repeated both in the second verse and the third verse there is, you said it only happened once one time, well maybe sometimes, but now it happens all the time. And then of course that gets repeated at the end with "It happens all the time," kind of repeated over "Upset Movie Set Ready Set Go." What are your thoughts?
I'm going to say I don't know again.
Yeah.
I felt like I had an epiphany with Wake Up Christine, but yeah, I don't know what he's talking about on this one.
Yeah.
Other than comparing stuff to a movie.
So I have a few different interpretations, and I'm not sure that any of them work all the way. You said it happened only once one time, or maybe sometimes, but now it happens all the time. Is this referring to cheating?
That would work with "My soul's on fire, so you light a cigarette."
Exactly, yeah. And I thought you'd be through with me, but it isn't over yet. So then my other interpretation here actually has to do with the chorus, which is "Upset Movie Set Ready Set Go," which to me kind of speaks of getting in a fight, but like it's a fight that's happened over and over again, right? To the extent that it's almost rehearsed now. And we're just doing this again, playing out this little play again. Maybe it's a crutch, maybe it's just a way to feel something, or maybe it truly is just like a fight that happens all the time. So to me, maybe there's cheating that, or just, it could not be cheating, it could just be something like smoking. Hey, what if it's smoking? Holy shit. Come on, girlfriend, you told me you wouldn't smoke anymore, and you said it happened just that once, maybe sometimes, but now it happens all the time.
Oh, okay. You
I don't
can do
know.
this with a lot of stuff on here, okay.
But then how do you fit in the "Here's my daredevil stunt" scene, the one where I'm thinking of someone other than myself?
Yeah.
Is that like going on with the relationship even though he knows he's going to get hurt again? Or he suspects he's going to get hurt again? Because that's never the meaning I took from it as a kid. But just digging into the lyrics here, I don't know.
Right.
They're beautiful lyrics, I just don't know what they mean.
That's how I felt about a lot of this album.
True. And especially the next song, which we'll talk about here in a second, I think there's things that we're not supposed to understand, right? We're just not given enough information to understand. But I don't know. I think this one, there's got to be meaning there somewhere in this one. I just can't find it.
Right.
All right, let's move on.
All right, fourth song, "Blue."
So "Blue" is, at different times, has been my favorite song on the album and my least favorite song on the album.
Yeah, I think I tend towards least favorite.
Really?
Honestly.
Because it's slow?
Yeah, it's kind of got that, like, it sounds very 90s, and sometimes in a bad way. Some of this album sounds very 90s in a very good way. This one edges more towards the bad way of meaning that.
And so, of course, when I first heard this album, like, this song really stood out to me, partially because, honestly, the lyrics are really beautiful, but also partially just because it's the only song that really stands out as having a distinctly different sound than the other songs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it starts off with, like, this slightly out-of-tune 12-string guitar playing a little simple chord progression. And then we get into this really magical moment, which actually Chris said is one of his favorite parts of this entire album, where kind of just everything else comes in, the drums, the bass, and the guitars, kind of the other guitar comes in, and the vocals all come in at the exact same time, and it's really wonderful.
Just beyond the canvas, she holds her head.
So yeah, that 12 string definitely does have, I think, a very 90s, and it's not, because it's not REM, although REM did things like that, right? I don't know. Can you think of what it's reminding you of?
It's got more of that like jangly early 90s stuff, where you're right, you're not wrong thinking REM. I don't know exactly what, but yeah, I think the jangly stuff I'm not as into.
Okay. And see, I don't think of this as jangly, because I think of jangly as a compressed electric guitar, whereas this is just straight up an acoustic 12-string guitar. Yeah. So, anyways. So when the other instruments come in, the other guitar kind of adds this like arpeggio, kind of like fairy dust over things. The bass is probably the most important part of the song, honestly. It's simple but driving. I'm going to play it here again in a second. And the drums are actually kind of strangely buried in this song.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was trying to listen for the snare, and I was like, wait, where is it?
Yeah. If you really, really listen for it, you can sometimes hear it, but not on every beat. So, not every time you think you should hear it. Yeah. And this is one of the harder songs to talk about, because the lyrics are so much of what make up this song. But even with that said, it still has it's still, even if you take the lyrics out, it's still quite a beautiful song. And once again, as is typical with Julie's song, as we're finding here, the chorus is almost diminutive. It's just the 12-string guitar drops out, and the bass leaves out kind of some of the accents it was doing that were in the verse. Between the two the two instances of the chorus being repeated there, we get this wonderful like little moment of kind of like this swirling sound. Let me play it again here for you. Did you hear that? Let's play it again. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I caught it for a second.
It's actually just the sound of running your fingers across the strings with an echo effect on the guitar. But it really, I don't know, for me it adds, it's a lot of little details like that kind of make this album kind of magical for me. And also kind of those background vocals there. Once again, none of these guys can sing, but the background vocals are still pretty effective there, I think. After the second chorus, we get a bridge that kind of drops out the bass, it drops out everything but the bass and hi-hat and vocals, where lyrically it's not the resolution, but it's kind of like the point that everything's coming together for this song.
But her lips keep striking poses, so he lets it go. This one girl show, he understands, and now she knows it. She begs, hang me high.
So right there at the end, the bass steps down. It's like anyways, I was way off key there. That's fine. But the bass steps down to the lowest note on this song. Not that it's all that low, but and it just hangs there for a moment, which musically feels like everything's just kind of come to a halt. But the vocals keep going on there. I think it's a really good effect of there's a moment of crisis in the song, and things keep pushing forward. And when we get to it, you'll see that there's kind of a crisis for the artist here. And then the drums hit, and we're back into the verse. This time, kind of a little more celebratory, and it's kind of just like a great escalating moment. And we from there we go into like an instrumental bridge. I want to play this whole song, but I'm not going to. Into the emotional resolution of this song, which is transcendent for the artist here. When we get to the lyrics. we have Chris there, singing the lyrics, and behind it we have backing vocals that are actually repeating the plea that's made in the first part of the song, and we'll get back to that when we get. It's so hard to talk about the song without talking about the lyrics and the music at the same time. Let's just get on to it. Let's get to the lyrics. The song ends after that. Okay.
Before you start, I just want to say this is the first song I noticed that's written in third person.
Yeah,
it's not I, me, we. We're referring to other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's the only song, isn't
it? Yeah, probably.
Yeah. It's the only song that's really telling a story of someone else, yeah. So once again, as a kid, I think this is fairly easy to read some Christian-esque meaning into these lyrics.
For sure.
Which is one of the reasons it was probably on and off as one of my favorite songs in the album. It being the slowest, it's also the longest song on the album, which kind of annoyed me a little bit, I think, as a kid, but that's fine. Approaching 5 minutes, which for me as a kid growing up on punk was super
a lot. Long. Yeah, it could fit 2 or 3 songs in that time period.
All right, let's get to the lyrics here. I'm going to read the first verse here. She's the fading figure just beyond the canvas. She holds her head up high in shame and stretches her skin so the light can get in, but he'll paint her just the same again. Her eyes are raindrops. He's frozen still. She smiles, and he says he thinks he will. He says, I think I'll paint you bright to liven up the saddest night. But she dreams a voice like trumpets, begs and says she'd love it if you'd only paint me blue. Now, then it goes into the chorus there. She says, and she says, she says, and she says, you can paint me blue. Outside the night is drunk, and all the stars are stumbling, but she stands so still, forgetting a wish. And if she drops her eyes, she knows he'll pick them up in a brilliant streak of blue high above the lips. And he says that she's a masterpiece, a freckle on the face of God, and it's true. So she's painted blue. She's closer to perfect than me or you. And her eyes are floating, and her soul is sinking, but her lips keep striking poses. So he lets her go, this one girl show. He understands, and now she knows it. She begs, hang me high. On the grayest wall you find, it's the closest thing you'll ever get to what's inside. He drops to his knees, declares this is art. I painted her blue to match her heart.
You know, on that podcast where they interview Chris, the interviewer talks about how some of these lyrics seemed like Christian pickup lines. And I think that line, she's a masterpiece, a freckle on the face of God, that seems exactly like some kind of really cheesy Christian pickup line from back in the day.
Yeah, it's a pretty good pickup line too.
That's bust that out in youth group. Yeah.
Damn it! I should have tried that. Wasted opportunities.
Yep.
So I think this is somewhat easy to understand in the sense that this is kind of a somewhat fantastical story about an artist interacting with his own art and kind of listening to the art, and the art takes on its own consciousness. And a female figure wants to be painted blue, which I never identified with the artist here. I always identified with the lady who wants to be painted blue, obviously.
Okay.
I'm curious, when you read this, did you identify with one of the people?
No, I was really trying to figure out what was going on here. I mean, here's my notes. I said, okay, what is this one about? A guy painting a girl, and she wants to be painted blue. She's ashamed. He wants to paint her bright, but she wants to be blue. Mm-hmm. Somehow the process of painting transforms her. Like, I was struggling with this one. I'm glad you had clarity, because I was like, I
don't know if there's clarity. It's so much as this that, like I said, when I listened to it as a kid, I never identified with the fact that there's a story being told. I knew there was a story being told, but I never identified with the artist. I always identified with the lady that wants to be painted blue, right? And to me, what I took from it as a kid, and I still take from it today, is this idea that he wants to paint her bright to brighten up the saddest night, right? But she wants to be painted blue because that's what she is inside. And so I took from it this idea that being true to yourself, even if that is blue, which, is of course a stand-in for being sad, that even that can be beautiful.
Yeah, no, I mean, it works.
anyways, I think it's a very well done song with very well done lyrics. You know, it's probably not the most transparent thing in the world, but I think it works really well. Let's keep going because we're gonna have a long episode here.
Yep. Yeah. All right. You want to go to Love Scene 17?
All right. These last two songs in this album are my favorite. Okay. They're messy and bleak and everything my black heart wanted as a kid and even today. You know, thematically, they encompass rejection and lack of joy even when you find what you think you were looking for. So this song starts off with kind of just a straightforward kind of solo drum part that's joined by some dreamy but not too spacey guitars. Vocals come in. I think that this is the most Morrissey vocals on the album, but you said that you thought the other ones were pretty Morrissey.
No, on here too, for sure. I noted that in my notes.
Yeah, because they're kind of monotone and they're kind of nasally, but not so much. Like Morrissey annoys me, and these are in that direction, but they don't annoy me. So, once again, we're back to this movie theme, right? So here we are, movie star, put your love in my camera. So we don't forget the time we spent. I watched you over and over. I think, especially in these last few songs, they just have more kind of moments like that jump out at me lyrically, I think. And then we move into the chorus, which is honestly one of the messiest moments on this album. It has great lyrics, but this is probably one of the hardest things to understand because the background vocals are so active behind them and overlaid that it's kind of hard to hear what's going on. I know, I love the guitars in this. They're kind of light and dreamy, and it honestly gives room for the bass to come in and be a really prominent instrument, which is simple, but it has a kind of like it doesn't feel bouncy, but it's played with breaks with breaks in between every note, so it's dun 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 like that. And it kind of acts as the glue for the song because everything else is kind of just so warbly and everything. And I keep saying warbly, but it's not as warbly as like dream pop or shoegaze or something like that, you know, but in my experience as a 16-year-old, this was the craziest music I'd ever heard. You know, it was probably the most psychedelic music I'd ever heard.
Okay, right.
We have third verse here again, but lyrically it's kind of a mashup of the second and third verse. This kind of happened earlier on in the album as well. After the third chorus, we get what I think is one of the best moments in the album. The guitars get really noisy, a lot of reverb and other effects, and Chris starts proclaiming over and over against like this motif of real life versus movies. This is as real as it gets. I like how it starts off like really serious, like this is as real as it gets, and then he kind of just moves into more and more fantastical ways of saying the line over and over again. And once again, the song kind of ends at its highest moment and most turbulent moment.
Yeah, it's a good one. I like how it gets kind of noisy and messy and, you know, getting a little more experimental towards the end of this EP.
Yeah, which when we talk about January, that did the same way too, where it got more experimental towards the end. So let's move on. You want to talk about the lyrics now?
Yeah.
I'll read the lyrics here. So here we are, movie star, put your love in my camera. So you don't forget the time we spent. I watched you over and over. Rainy day, another matinee. You know I just had to see you. I'll wait for you in a darkened room. You'll never need quite like I need you. Here's the lyrics to the chorus. It's hard to understand. Do you love the silver screen, or should I paint it black for you? I think my heart just stole the scene since I've been acting up for you. I want to listen to that again here, Jay. Let me know if you hear that in here. Did you get all of it?
I did not hear the first line. I heard the other three, but the first one, do you really love the silver screen?
Yeah.
That was hard to pick out.
Here's what it goes something like this from what I hear. Do you love the silver screen, or should I paint it black for you? And that paint it black for you is really buried. I think I just stole the whole set since I've been acting up for you. Anyways.
Yeah.
But those two, the screen and scene, they almost sound more like the word skin. I don't know. It's very weird.
Yeah, it was weird how they meshed it up on this chorus, because they don't have that anywhere else on the album, and you really can't, without the lyrics, decipher it.
Yeah, but it sounds great.
Right.
All right, I'll continue on here to the second verse. I keep pretending that this happy ending was made between the two of us. Need it, can't have it. I'm too melodramatic, and Hollywood is through with us. Put you in a dream, and practice love scenes. It was your finest performance. Till the sun told my eyes, I've been featuring lies, a typical Monday morning. So here we are, movie star, put your love in my camera, so you don't forget the time we spent. I watched you over and over. Put you in a dream and practice love scenes. It was your finest performance. Till the sun told my eyes, I've been featuring lies, a typical Monday morning. And then, of course, at the end it says, this is as real as it gets, over and over again. What are your thoughts on this, Jay?
Yeah, I still don't know what they're talking about. I mean, he's going with the movie theme again, just like the last song.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I like the line, this is as real as it gets. I mean, I think that's kind of useful to think about life in general, kind of being in the moment, and, this is it kind of thing.
I agree.
But I don't know what the hell he's talking about in this.
So I don't know. There's two directions you can come from here. So here we are, movie star, put your love in my camera, so you don't forget the time we spent. I watched you over and over. Rainy day, another matinee. You know I just had to see you. I'll wait for you in a darkened room. You'll never need quite like I need you. This is either, if we take this literally, he's talking to a movie star, right?
Okay.
Or if we take it figuratively, he's talking to someone as if they were a movie star featuring in a movie. But then the chorus says, do you really love the silver screen, or should I paint it black for you? Once again, we get that painting something for somebody. I think my heart just stole the scene since I've been acting up for you. So then back in the second verse here, I keep pretending that this happy ending was made between the two of us. Need it, can't have it. I'm too melodramatic, and Hollywood is through with us. Put you in a dream and practice love scenes. It was your finest performance. Till the sun told my eyes, I've been featuring lies, a typical Monday morning. I think the second half of that second verse is way easier to understand than anything else here, which to me is just like fantasizing about somebody, right?
Yeah.
Put you in a dream, practice love scenes. It was your finest performance. So the question here is, so whether this is someone whether this is a movie star that he's talking about, or someone that he's just placing into that for metaphorical effect, this is definitely a crush, I think. Which is kind of what I get out of the whole thing, which is just that this song is about a crush. But it's about more than a crush, because it's about getting lost in a crush, to me.
Right.
And I especially like the lines like, I keep pretending that this happy ending was made between the two of us. So I think that's, once again, a crush, and saying like, I keep fantasizing that there's something great going on, but it's not, right? And then he need it, can't have it. I'm too melodramatic, and Hollywood is through with us. I don't know. To me, it's kind of a beautiful song about just like over fantasizing a crush and not being able to move on past that.
Yeah. Let's do the last song.
Moving on.
Because I like this one. It's kind of feels like it's falling apart in places.
Yeah.
It's nice.
I love fall aparty songs.
So this is called Friday and Faithless.
Yes.
Which, by the way, I think this has the most Christian imagery
You think so?
Yeah, I don't really know if it was really meant that way. It's just, I'm sure that's, Christian 16-year-old trying to pull it out of there. You find quite a bit in this song.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. So this song has the most guitar effects on it, and it's just, I think it's beautifully messy, and as Jay said, it kind of feels like it's gonna fall apart in places. It starts off with a chord progression soaked in reverb and chorus effect, giving it an almost like otherworldly feel, before it's joined by the rest of the band, adding a little more chaos, honestly, and more noise. The first verse delivers standout lyrics like, I talked to God and I asked him the way. Keep me safe from the way I feel inside. Keep me safe from that look in your eyes, which are really great. And as you said, you definitely take some Christian meaning from that, which then goes on into my favorite chorus on the whole album, which is, it's not the way that you can't, it's not the way that you won't, it's not the way you say you're lonely when you're only alone. You're only alone. And actually in the song he actually says, so alone, so alone. Which for me kind of hits me right in the feels, kind of to a certain extent, I've always felt lonely, even when surrounded by people, even when surrounded by friends, I've always felt lonely to a certain extent. So I've always kind of, had a good relationship with this song. The music of the chorus is a bit more simple than the rest of it. But for the verse, we get right back into this kind of layered chaos. And I want to be specific here because this layering, like I said over and over again, it doesn't feel really thick. It's not thick like shoegaze is for real. It actually sounds pretty thin, but even then, even in its thinness, it still feels like it has a wall of sound to it. And then the second verse, we get some lyrics that I think kind of are the perfect teenage fit, which is, and fit, I don't mean like it fits well, I mean like throwing a fit. If this was heaven, I'd kill myself to see if I could make it again. Would you help? Forgive me, please, but you can never forget me. I want to go so far. I want to be so good. I want to hate myself when I'm misunderstood. If this was heaven, I'd say it hurts like hell. I'm just upset, and it's just as well. So I absolutely loved that when I was a kid, and even on to college, and honestly forever. Kind of wanting to feel something from life, wanting to do something with life, seeing so much potential, but feeling so trapped from doing anything of any value kind of thing. In that verse, we get kind of drums that are probably more complicated than they need to be. Kind of reminds me of the January EP a little bit. But it kind of adds to this sense of everything kind of feeling on the edge. Like it's kind of like full of kinetic energy and has no way to let loose. You hear the drums picking up there just like a lot faster. They went into double time and a lot more complicated than they were on the rest of the album. Maybe not more complicated, just a lot more hard hitting, I think. And from there, we go into another chorus, which kind of fades into like a shallow void after the end of it, with Chris just whispering over and over again, alone, so alone, over the top. Get this noisy feedback, some warbly tremolo, got some low-key drums. And then coming up here, everything hits back in. So we get that drum hits really hard, and everything comes back in. The guitars, it's kind of easy to hear what one of them the other's doing. The other one's kind of soaked in reverb and whatnot. It's almost impossible to tell what it's doing. Those vocals come back in. They're kind of really buried in the mix. But if you listen to it, he's just repeating that "I want to go so far, I want to be so good" over and over again, and until things start getting more broken up and more crazy, and Chris just starts saying so much, so much, so much. That's how it ends, once again, in chaos.
This had to be the last song.
Yes.
Like, that's crystal clear. And again, on those lyrics that you shared, this was the last song. So
yes.
Some of the songs were out of order on that, but this one, like, hands down, it had to be the last one.
Right. And the lyrics in the LP version, by the way, are in the right order. Yeah, but the lyrics on that lyric sheet are in the wrong order, yes. You want to talk about the lyrics here?
Yeah. What's this about? I mean, again, there's imagery with heaven, there's angels. Yeah. I really like that line because it's not something you normally hear on Christian stuff where he says, if this was heaven, I'd kill myself just to see if I could make it again.
Yeah, it's a great line. Yeah, this isn't all that great. It's so not great that I would just kill myself to see if I could get here again because, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll read the whole thing here. If this was heaven, you'd all be angels. Still, here we are, just men with halos, and I know you're paying for that glow. Yeah, I know the names, I know the games, I talk to God, and I ask him the way. Keep me safe from the way I feel inside. Keep me safe from that look in your eyes. It's not the way that you can't. It's not the way that you won't. It's not the way that you say you're lonely when you're only alone. You're only alone. If this was heaven, I'd kill myself just to see if I could make it again. Would you help? Forgive me, please. But you can never forget me. I want to go so far, I want to be so good, I want to hate myself and I'm misunderstood. If this was heaven, I'd say it hurts like hell. I'm just upset, and it's just as well. I don't know if there's a lot of meaning to take from this, but I can say that I think I connected with this song more in like later college years and after college. You know, I remember driving around my hometown, which is, 100,000 people and, nothing to do. Like the whole town is designed for oil business to take place. It's not designed for people, And I would feel like this part that says, I want to go so far. I want to be so good. I want to hate myself and I'm misunderstood. I felt that like intensely, right? Like this burning desire to do something, right? And just being stuck in like a place where you can't do it. And being stuck there, it hurt. Like, if this was heaven, I'd say it hurts like hell. I'm just upset and it's just as well. I think that part really spoke to me in those years of feeling stuck and feeling like you want to do more with your life, feeling like there should be more to life and just not being able to find it.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I definitely had, I still have times like that.
Yeah,
right?
For sure, yeah. Yeah, and I one thing I never got a hold of when really until I was doing this is the first verse though, which says, "If this was heaven, you'd all be angels. Still, here we are, just men with halos. And I know you're paying for that glow." Which is a very interesting line to me. Like, I know you're paying for that glow. So anyone who's like glowing, who looks like they're doing great in life, they're paying for that in some way, right? Like there is an internal cost for that feeling or for that perception. I don't know. It reminds me of lately, Liz and I don't know what we've been watching, but we were watching something the other day, and I made a comment of, I think we were watching Kings of Metal. Have you seen that? Did you see that? It just came out on Netflix.
No.
It's about a high school metal band or wannabe metal band. Anyways, I was like, there's a kid there who just has like all the confidence in the world, like never imagined that they were doing something wrong, right? And I was just like, to have that confidence, to like never doubt yourself, like what does that feel like?
Right.
I don't know. But then I also turned right back around. I was like, but I don't want that, because then I would, you would be too content to ever improve upon yourself,
Yeah.
And the chorus here, I think, I don't know what to take from the chorus, because I feel like it's somewhere different, or at least maybe I'm interpreting the song wrong. But it's a feeling I felt about people before, right? It's like, and I feel about myself, right? It's not the way that you can't. It's not the way that you won't. It's not the way you say you're lonely when you're only alone. Like I said before, that I've whether it be just who I am or the mental stuff that, the chemical imbalances that I live with and whatnot for mental issues, I've always kind of felt alone, but this is more than about that, right? It's not the way that you can't. It's not the way that you won't. It's not the way you say you're lonely when you're only alone. It's about taking a situation for granted, I think, and saying, like, okay, you're alone, but does that mean you're lonely? I don't know.
Why do you think the song's called Friday and Faithless?
It's a good question, right? And it's a fantastic title, by the way. I don't know. Do you have an idea?
No, I'm just thinking like the faithless part, especially with the way the song kind of, if this is heaven, I'd kill myself. If this is heaven, you'd all be angels. Here we are, just men with halos, and I know you're paying for this glow. Like, I don't know. I get the faithless vibe a little bit.
Yeah, definitely, right? And I can definitely say that, like, those times when I was, right after college, when I was having those, like, kind of existential crises about wanting to do more and be more, that was, it definitely kicked in on Fridays and the weekends, right? Because, like, you're not so occupied by work that you have a little downtime to actually think,
Right.
And so, like, the moment you hit a little downtime, you're like, why is there not more than this, right? I don't know. That's just me. But and I think the faithless is exactly what you're talking about, right? That maybe it's like I hit a little downtime, got some time to think, and now I am losing faith in what's going on around me. I'm losing faith in that this world is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, overall thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I love this album. Did I have anything bad to say about it? I don't think so. Did you have anything bad to say?
Overall, not much. There are a couple parts, like I said, jangly guitars. I thought, we didn't really talk about it, but in one of the songs, it might have been Boy Wonder, drums were a little busy, I thought, in places, like, more than it needed to be. I'm just being nitpicky on stuff.
Because I even think, like, that wasn't on purpose to kind of, like, build up the tension in that part of the song.
Yeah. I mean, most of the time the drums did a really good job, especially on this last song, in places, like, really pushing things forward. So, yeah, I liked it, too. I think I hadn't had the experience of falling in love with it, at the young age, so it doesn't have as much meaning. But no, I definitely like it, and I definitely understand why people connect with it so much, and why the vinyl re-release was such a big deal, and maybe not vinyl re-release, vinyl release.
Right, yes.
So I get
re-release of the album, but the first vinyl release, yes.
Right.
Musically, it's kind of like what I like. It's kind of shimmering and has plenty of highs and stuff like that, where they play around, with guitar, and I think the vocals are great. The lyrics are thick and mystical to a certain extent. Like, maybe mystical isn't the right word, but they leave a mystique about the band, right? About what's going on with this thing. Especially when you approached it as a kid, like, thinking this was a Christian album. Which, by the way, this is not. This is not a Christian album.
Right. This is one of those, like, and we've had, Huntington's Flying Tart, that's another same label, fairly good example, just the most recent one I can think of.
Except for those guys did mean to be in the Christian industry to some extent, I think.
More than this, probably.
Right. Probably the best alignment is Loudflower.
Yeah, good. That's a good one. And I know we'll have more. It's this weird thing where, like, the Christian industry was growing, and you had these people like the Julies that were kind of on the edge, which I think they formed at like a Christian college, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they came from that background, but they weren't trying to do it. But it's like they just could not get out of that.
Yeah.
As much as they wanted to, it's just somehow. And for some reason, there was like, I know Flying Tart, kind of went bankrupt, but for some reason there was some money in kind of the very mid 90s because all these labels popped up.
Yeah.
And so it was like they were just trying to grab bands left and right, and I think a lot of bands kind of got sucked in, and they did really well, and others, like the Julies, probably would have done much better had they not gone with Flying Tart.
Yeah, and I have mixed feelings about Flying Tart because of this, because I think that, whatever problem it was that caused Flying Tart to have problems from the beginning, maybe it was Alex's fault, maybe it wasn't, but I think in the end, he loved music, and he was doing the best he could to get some weird things out there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, some great stuff. I mean, I would love to know the Flying Tart story. Alex, if you ever want to come on the podcast, we'll do a whole episode just on that. But, yeah, no, I agree. It's just interesting, these bands that, probably really, definitely shouldn't have been in the Christian bookstore.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of get sucked into the whirlpool, though, and spit out there because that's what it was at the time.
And in that podcast with Chris, he said they talked about the Christian bookstores and the recommended if you like charts,
Right.
And one of my favorite parts was that he said he always intended them to be one of those bands that you're not allowed to listen to, not one of the ones that you're recommended to listen to instead of someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Back on this, I think the production is perfect. Honestly, like, it's not the best production, but I think for what this is, if it was better production, I don't think it would have serviced the album more.
It's not bad at all, and I'm looking back through not the LP, but the original CD, and it says engineered by William Campbell, but I don't know where. Like, there's no info about where it was recorded. Like, I was just kind of like, okay, so no idea where it was recorded or anything like that. I just know that was the engineer. Yeah.
I will say that as I got exposed to more secular music over the years, I started to realize that this was highly influenced, obviously, by The Cure and the Smiths and things like that. But in the end, I was just kind of still like, I prefer the Julies.
Oh, more than The Cure or the Smiths? Man, Clifton.
I don't know. It's just kind of where, I don't know. It's where I always was. Yeah.
It's a nice mix of stuff. And again, that last song especially, I think you hear, I don't know if that was the last one they wrote, but for this, but you hear like a lot of shoegaze and a lot of kind of getting crazier. I would have liked to hear a few more in that style.
And honestly, seen them live.
Yeah, I looked, and I'm sure you did. I looked and looked just to make sure there were no live videos.
Desperately.
Come on, Julie, somebody has to have a video of them playing something. I would love to see it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's there's got to be something out there, right?
Right.
I know they have some live recordings, at least, where at least sound recordings of some songs. I want to read 2 Bandcamp reviews here.
Okay.
One is, first one's from Lars. He says, sassy and noisy indie pop made by Americans in love with British mope rockers.
Fair.
The other one's by Autumn. She says, I bought this on cassette when it came out, based on the band name and the adorable cover art. It was an amazing experience to say the least. Years later, after losing the tape I had probably worn out anyway, I purchased it on CD and still listen to it from time to time. I was unaware that the album had been reissued on vinyl last year. When I got a notification in my Bandcamp feed featuring the Julies and this record, I went for it. Again, absolutely adore this album. I can't find a bad review of this album.
Yeah, there's not one. I know.
Yeah.
I looked too. Everybody's pretty in love with it.
Yeah. And Chris mentioned in that interview, they would just get, like, how I wrote them a letter, he said they just got them all the time, like over and over and over again. Like, just, he was surprised by how many people would write them over the years.
I mean, I wonder if they regretted breaking up when they did, or it seems like this album it wasn't huge, but it picked up a little bit of steam. I mean, you wrote to him, a lot of people wrote to him. I wonder if they thought, man, maybe if we stayed together a little longer.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. We'll talk about it here in a minute. They lost one of the members and they went on for a little while more under another name. What'd you think of the album art?
It's good. I don't know if it completely honestly fits, but it's nice. I was looking at that too because I'm like, I'm pretty sure they must have ripped that off something.
Oh, I'm sure.
It just says artwork Alex Parker, but I'm like, that.
And Alex stole everything.
That looks like early 80s, maybe late 70s artwork. Right, because the Huntington's artwork was completely ripped off. I'm pretty sure he ripped this off somewhere too.
Probably so, but I think it works well. I think it goes with the album well.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, the packaging is pretty simple. They said it was supposed to be more to it, but because Flying Tart was going broke, it ended up just being the cover with a back to it, which basically just had some thank yous and the credits on it, and that's about it. But right. I think that the minimal packaging kind of helped create this kind of mystique around the band, where you didn't. If you wanted to know more, you had to really search it out.
Yeah, for sure.
And back in '96, that wasn't very possible, even.
Clifton, where are they now?
All right, so after the Julies broke up, which basically I think it was Patrick who left the band, they continued on under a different name, Riviera. They had another guitarist, and they continued on under that name for about a year or two until, and I'm going to quote Chris here, until adulthood, quote, started swallowing people up. And that's kind of how things ended. In 2003, the band had their demo January remixed, but as we talked about with the production there, they didn't seem happy with it, but they didn't really do anything with it at that point, it doesn't look like. And then in 2011, the Julies started their Facebook page as their first social media exposure. And I like their first post was, "For better or worse, the Julies are now officially and needlessly Facebooking it." For a few years, they just posted a handful of pictures, and then in 2019, they announced a Kickstarter to reissue Lovelife on vinyl. They raised the money for the reissue and also enough to remaster and re-release their earlier demo January. In that podcast episode, Chris hints that there have been conversations about doing something again. And in August 2020, they have a Facebook post where they put out a picture of a kind of a really small room filled with drums set up and mic'd for recording and a computer in the background with the recording software on the screen. And then in April of 2021, they posted another picture with a laptop of having recording software up on the screen with several guitars around and a Marshall amp and a stool with headphones on it, with a note that said, "Time to make some demos." And then in January of this year, 2022, they posted another picture of a guitar player with the recording equipment in the background. So, I don't know. There might be something coming.
That would be pretty cool.
It'd be great. But yeah, I didn't do a lot of looking into the individual guys. Honestly, most of their names are hard to figure out. They're pretty common names, so it wasn't easy to look for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's all right. If they're potentially coming back, I think we're more interested in that.
We'll hear more, hopefully.
Did you have an award for this album?
I do.
Okay.
It's the We Weren't Supposed to Be Blessed with This award.
Ooh, I like that one. That's good.
But once again, somehow our Christian bookstores ended up acting like an indie record store in places that, otherwise wouldn't have such a thing. And so we did get this.
You're right about that. And I want to sometime in the future explore that thread more, because as much as I hate the Christian bookstores and hate how it's like commodified religion and mixed it all with capitalism, like there's so many bad things about it, right? But you're right. Especially for those of us living like where we did, where this was our only avenue to any kind of music like this.
Right.
It actually served a very good purpose. So, good point.
Yeah, I mean, the most indie most of us were going to get were Sub Pop, so.
Yeah, something you could find at like Best Buy or something.
Exactly.
This was a nice conduit to be exposed to this type of stuff. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Clifton, what are we going to do next time?
We are going to listen to, it's a little bit of a cheat because this came out in 2000 technically, but we're going to listen to Stairwell's Pacific Standard Time.
And that's exciting because Stairwell is evidently back together. They are playing at Furnace Fest this year and maybe some other shows.
Yeah. I actually got a text from Jason Fleetwood the other day with that podcast I sent you where that Stairwell was on. And he also mentioned that he said that Jeff, I guess that's the drummer, that Jeff from Rainy Days is playing with Stairwell now, so he's going to be at Furnace Fest too.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's celebrate Stairwell being back out there with a Stairwell episode. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Your Music Saved Us. If you enjoyed your time with us, please leave a review or share this episode. And of course, visit patreon.com/YMSU to contribute and get extended episodes and other fun things.
Visit our website, yourmusicsavedus.com, to find out all the ways to listen. We're on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Join our Facebook group or follow us to keep up with the latest or interact with us. Send complaints and disagreements to yourmusicsavedus@gmail.com.
The music in this episode is the work of the Julies and is used with apologies, not permission. Of course, go out there and find them on Bandcamp, Lost in Ohio. You can buy the MP3s. You can buy the vinyl. Still, I think there's still the black version left of the vinyl. You can't get the cassette tape with January on it anymore, but you can buy the MP3s for January. So go out there and support Julies and keep an eye out for them doing something in the future.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.